Now, I won't be speaking as a Christian or an experimental theologian. I'm not going to delve into the Bible, but I'm going to speak as an Englishman. I'm going to use a very English example. Someone once explained sexual relationships and consent using tea as an example. I'm going to do something similar, explain lockdown logic with another very British thing. A friend of mine has recently put out an unnecessary apology for his continuous comments on Facebook posts that spread and support conspiracy theories. Whilst many may think it's just a zealous man trying to ruin people's fun or break someone's worldview by being pernickety or intolerant, strangely enough, this is actually a sensible thing to do, since alarmingly, many of them are genuinely believing some things that can be dangerous and spread misleading information about things that can actually keep us alive. Flat Earth, not a problem. Bit silly, ridiculous, and so on, but not a problem. Tinfoil hat, not really an issue. Anti vaxxers, on the other hand, anti maskers, and not to mention anti COVID. This is serious. And so many of these people are incredibly stubborn about their views and refuse to even debate on the topic. So my friend is being, whilst I'd probably say a crusader actually, he's being a crusader in trying to at least attempt to make them see sense. Unlikely, but he's doing an effort. And that's something that is definitely needed in that sort of climate. And it is scary how often that happens. I myself came across a video which was shared by an acquaintance of mine. I am not inclined to call him a friend, even before this. And this video was knocking down the seriousness of COVID-19. So, naturally, I confronted him about it, preparing to settle down for a long argument, ready to trade viewpoints, maybe a bit of sparring, a bit of wordplay, see what each of us can learn from each other. That's my style. He just came out and said he wasn't going to start discussing it, called me naive for believing it's as serious as it is, and refused to continue the conversation any further. This is extremely worrying. I'm a tolerant man, and I'm willing to allow people their different views. But when those views put people at risk, I must speak up, even if it just involves a debate, a discussion. If both of us can learn, then that's at least part of the issue solved. In this case, I learned nothing, neither did he, and I'm at a loss to understand why. Because in this case, both of us had friends who were suffering or had suffered from COVID. Why did he not see it was serious? We had at least two pandemics in our school careers. The bird flu pandemic when we were in year 6, and the swine flu pandemic when we were in secondary school. Neither of those required our schools to close or for the nation to go into lockdown. It's not even like the norovirus, which is remarkably catchy and incredibly violent. But this is the third lockdown since the pandemic hit Britain, and the issues with ignoring the government's advice are not getting through. I can't deny the government has not been doing a good job. Who would understand? But this doesn't mean we can just ignore them and plough on. We're putting way too many people at risk like this. I know I'm not going to get through with battering at them, so I think it's time I gave a relatable example. Now, I won't be speaking as a Christian or an experimental theologian. I'm not going to delve into the Bible, but I'm going to speak as an Englishman. I'm going to use a very English example. Someone once explained sexual relationships and consent using tea as an example. I'm going to do something similar, explain lockdown logic with another very British thing: traffic. Now, before I begin, I just want to say I know I may have appeared hypocritical earlier on, since some religious communities can be just as belligerent, unwilling to discuss alternatives, and likely to share potentially dangerous material and views as any conspiracy theorist. I'm not here to claim one is right and the other is wrong. I'm here to talk about lockdown. I might do a video on conspiracy theories at some point, but for now, back to the matter in hand. Now, I know many of you will be thinking, what has traffic got to do with lockdown? I thought it would be rather appropriate to do this bit whilst driving, assuming I don't crash the van. But it actually has a lot of similarities. I mean, when you get right down to it, you've got a situation where you can't go anywhere particularly quickly. You end up, in some extreme cases, not being able to work, not being able to see your friends, being late to see your relatives, or even just do your errands, so you can't even go to the shops. And the knock-on effect can actually cause problems with the emergency services as well. So if traffic builds up too much, the fire service can't get through, the police service can't get through, the ambulances, they've got no chance of getting through. So the very things that are set up to actually mitigate the problem can't get through to deal with it. So it sounds remarkably similar to lockdown just on that. But it's also the psychological effects. I'm no psychologist, but I've seen people with road rage. It's never a sensible thing, because it's blaming everyone who's just sitting in the traffic with them. They're getting angrier and angrier, and the angrier they get, the more likely they are to do something stupid, like jump the traffic, like race ahead, or when the traffic opens up, just step on it and floor it. It's not unheard of for more accidents to happen because of that. If you go speeding into a situation, you're going to be in big trouble. Remind you of anything? Well, that's lockdown for you. So many people are getting just frustrated or even getting cabin fever from being locked indoors. I'm very lucky because I live in the countryside, and so I've got all the surroundings just to walk around and explore. Add that to the fact I've got a job that actually allows me to work during lockdown as a technical critical worker. And you can agree, I've got the light of it. But does that mean I'm able to just breeze through, blast through everything? No. It means I'll be a bit more careful, be a bit more sensible. And that's what people need to do, be more sensible about it. Because if they just do stupid things, or even things that are just slightly different, in the hope that it's just going to slip past the regulations, they're going to cause more problems. Granted, sitting in traffic or following the diversion set up by the police or by the council isn't a pleasant thing. It's really annoying. But what it does do is ensure everyone is safe. If you want to go against the grain, do something different, don't try and blast through. Don't try and overtake, don't try and overdo the speed limit. Think of it in a different way. And for that, I've actually put together a small map compilation that I'm going to share with you about a traffic incident I was in. It was a traffic jam, and how that could have made me late for work if I hadn't thought ahead and decided to use my knowledge of the area and get around it. It may have seemed counterproductive, but it worked very well. I got to work on time. Now, since this is the first time I've used graphics in my videos, it's going to be a bit clunky, and I didn't do a script for it. This is a map of my old hometown area in the sunny little borough of Hertfordshire, just north of London. We have Welwyn Garden City and Hertford. I lived in Welwyn Garden City, just near the new QE2 hospital, and I worked in Brickenden, which is just south of Hertford. You can just see that in the bottom right corner. You can see my route generally takes about 14-15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, depending on the traffic. It's about 7-8 miles. Really not that long at all. As you can see, the main traffic arteries going across my way are the A414, which is one of the main thoroughfares between Hertfordshire West, which includes the parts of the A1M down to Hatfield and St Albans, all the way to Ware and Hertford, and on to Hoddesdon and stuff like that. All of those routes are very important. I also had the B195, or where I get onto it, Blackfan Road, that connects much of northeast Welwyn Garden, going from just where the Coal Green Way starts all the way to Pantanga. Many people take that route from Hertford and parts of Hatfield to get to the Shire Park Business Park just off Bessemer. Now, both of those routes are prone to traffic, and often this means people are onto it off points or have to find different ways around. But this is really the only way I can get from my house to where I used to work in Brickenden. This is a close-up route of where the traffic actually was when I left for work that day. I don't remember what day it was, I don't remember what time of year it was, I don't even remember what we were doing that day. It was that long ago, probably about 5 years or so. But I remember the traffic jam quite severely, because I left my house just by Oakwood Angling in Hall Grove and go onto Howlands up towards Heronswood Road and turn onto this road marked in red, which is Coal Green Lane. Now, Coal Green Lane is prone to some tailbacks from the B195 due to that road being rather ridiculous when it comes to turning. Has a T-junction with the Coal Green Lane, but the right-hand turn onto Coal Green Lane is actually a bit ridiculous because lots of people come from Hertford heading into Welwyn Garden, and that causes people wanting to turn right onto Coal Green Lane heading into South Welwyn Garden and towards QE2. That causes them to hold up on that stretch, and that causes a tailback up the through road going on to 414, and that can cause all manner of issues. Especially if you're trying to turn right towards Hertford off the Coal Green Lane, as you've got 3 lanes of traffic between you and the road you want to get onto, which can be a bit problematic. But either way, the tailbacks are rarely so bad that they go all the way down to the Heronswood Road roundabout, which is what they were doing today. So I naturally went on to Coll Green Lane to try and head up my usual route, and found that it wasn't just stop-started and slow traffic, it was practically standstill. We were creeping forwards very slightly every minute or so, but I knew full well that if I stuck on that, I would be very late, and I didn't want to work that day. Now, I also didn't know what was going to happen when I got to that point, as it was never that bad before. It could have been traffic, it could have been a roadblock, it could have been roadworks. I didn't know. But one of the main reasons people were moving off was because they were going on to Great Gannet, which is this small teacup handle going off towards Heronswood Road. So I took that route, thinking, ooh, I may as well take another route. Now, I had a couple of options. I could have gone up Heronswood Road towards the Ridgeway, head up there towards Morrison's, and then follow the B195 all the way down to the 414 and on from there. Not too hard. Done it a couple of times before, especially when I wanted to get some lunch from Morrison's. But it wasn't hard to see when I was getting off Great Gannet that lots of other people were thinking that as well. I mean, half of them heading up Bushy Lee, which is still a teacup handle heading further up Heronswood. So I had to think of something else. Now, I also knew that heading down Howlands to join up with the 414 past the hospital and by Mill Green wasn't really an option. I've been caught in traffic on that road before, and that is even slower than coming off the B195. You get stuck in that, it's far longer, you can't turn round, you're stuck in it forever. The only way off was at the B1455, heading onto the Lower Hatfield Road and then on to Bayford. It's not a bad route, it takes forever. So I had to think of something else. Now, you may think I'm going to have to go through those routes, but there was another route. We may be able to see further up one other road that is also called in some parts the Hertford Road, the B1000, which leads all the way from Welwyn through the lower parts of Digswell and Tewin, across the Pangsinger area, past the golf course, past the aerodrome, past the park, Hertford North. Once you get to Hertford North, you can go pretty much anywhere. The main issue was how to join the B1000. Well, there were a couple of routes I could have taken. Going from Coll Green Lane and Coll Green Lane, I could have gone up Heronswood Road, gone up the Ridgeway, and either gone left up the B195 onto the Mundballs, and then down Waterside, or continued on past the Ridgeway Academy, up below the golf course, and onto it just below Chewinberry Farm. I've done that before, and it works perfectly fine. Problem is, I knew full well that the traffic on Heronswood Road was chocker, and I guess would be the same on Ridgeway, and that is also notorious for traffic, having a double mini roundabout just above the Ridgeway Academy. That is not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to get caught in traffic. Also, living in the area for many years, I knew full well of a couple of other routes I could take. Since Coll Green Lane didn't just go east towards Hertford, it went west into Welwyn Garden itself. So following the Coll Green Lane into Welwyn Garden, you soon reach a point below Pear Tree. There's the Ludwig Way shops, the Woodhall shops. There we can. I didn't really know which way I went after that. Could have headed up Ludwig Way. Could have headed up I could have headed up Woodhall Road. Either way, I made my way up through Pear Tree, around the Mundles, and joined the B1000 to Hertford. This is the rough route that I took, and as you can see, it's not too bad considering. It may look completely ridiculous and massively going the wrong way, and I hate those sort of journeys, going completely out your way when you should be heading in one direction, but just one look at the numbers tells you what you need to know. It's only 2 miles more than the direct route from Hall Grove to Brickenden, well, more or less direct. Granted, it's 10 minutes more due to going along slower routes, and whilst the B1000 is national speed limit, it's single carriageway, unlike the 414, which is dual carriageway. With the longer stretch, I could keep up speed, and it was generally clearer, so I could head right into Hertford North, and then down through Hartingford Bury, Bayford Bury, through Bayford itself, and then into Brickenden. That's who want to take that way and not continue up Hornsmill Road and down Brickenden, depending on what I was thinking that day. But really, it's not a big change. And it's actually quite a shift from sitting in traffic for hours to getting to work fairly on time due to a slightly different route. Now, this may well seem counterproductive, as I said, going the opposite way from where you should be going to get to work quicker. After all, the quickest route to something is usually a straight line. The thing is, the shortest route isn't always the quickest route, depending on the speed limits and the traffic. And if everyone thinks it's going to be the quickest, and it's not too different from the normal route, then everyone's going to pile into it, and we have another traffic jam. Same with what I had on that said day. I couldn't go up Heronswood Road because that was chock-a-block. I couldn't go down to the A414 by Mill Green because that would be chock-a-block as well. I'm pretty sure that would have been the case. I had to do something completely different, and it still worked. It got me to work. Otherwise, I've been stuck in traffic for hours. And this is the thing. In this time of frustration, with a third lockdown, all we want is for it to be over. And I can seriously understand that. I want to see my friends and family. I want to be able to apply for jobs in outdoor activities that I'm certain will happen. I want to get in my van and get that anvil from Wales. There are many things we all want to do that the current restrictions just don't allow us to do. But if we just ignore the advice of those that have the power and the knowledge to give it, we're just going to get caught in wave after wave of lockdown. In fact, me and a couple of friends, we were having a drink when I was last down in Hertfordshire, and we looked around us. It was back in July, I think. Yeah. And we looked around us and we thought to ourselves, huge second wave of COVID. And surprisingly, we weren't too far off. I think it was September, October when Hertfordshire went into Tier 4. It actually started at our old school, so we're a bit further south in our estimation. But basically, what we were doing was doing 60 past temporary 40 signs, thinking, I haven't got time for this. Whilst we were okay, others were doing the same, and that just caused an accident. And that, as a result, got more traffic jams and people got hospitalised. Now, when driving, you don't know what could be the accident. You don't know what could be causing the speed limit to be lowered, something seemingly ridiculous. It could be an extremely icy day, it could be the roads have been newly laid and so traction won't be great. It could be a bridge has been weakened by weather or floods, or it could be a previous massive accident due to fog and smoke from the accidents, making it worse. So more people just pile in at speed and just wreck everything. So more people just pile in, and that makes it worse. You may think you know what the traffic is like in that area, but if you just plough on as though nothing's going to happen, and it's what you always do, regardless of what people say, you're going to cause more problems, more than you can understand. It may seem like common sense to get on with your business as usual, but even doing slightly different things can still land you in more trouble and make you later for things. For example, many of us at Christmas, we wanted to meet up with our families. That was a risk, something that, quite frankly, all of us were willing to take. I would have been willing to take it to see my family. That could have potentially caused a bigger resurgence. How we got away with it, I honestly don't know. New Year's was cancelled because that's when a lot of people just gather together. The fireworks at Big Ben, the fireworks in Edinburgh, they were cancelled. Hogmanay was cancelled. Hogmanay's been going on for far longer. Here's the thing. It may seem like we're just blocking everything out, shutting everything down. If we take the whole picture in, and think about what we can do to help, not only ourselves, but others, then we can do more. We can move away from the choking pile up of traffic and take the more scenic route. Yes, it may take a bit longer than you want, but if it's a choice between doing something completely different for about 10 minutes or sitting in traffic smoking at the ears for over an hour, and yes, it can take that long, then I know what I would choose, and it's not the latter. One needs to remember that if we just push on, we'll just make things worse. For those of you expecting a theological summary, forget it. This is getting too political already. But I do need to mention some more politics. I'm going to push it a bit further. Few people can deny that the British government have not done a good job at handling the pandemic. We can see all manner of responses to the pandemic across the world. Some good, some bad, some legal, some not. But you start to see the stark contrast between how people handle it. The New Zealand government forced a lockdown, which was later judged unlawful by the courts, but even they could see it practically eradicated the virus from the nation, and now they've readjusted the constitution. So next time it happens, they can do it legally. The Australians also introduced a national lockdown, and it worked so well that people started questioning if it was an overreaction or not, because things just seem to carry on as normal. What's the point of a lockdown? Didn't make any difference, surely. We've had one of the worst responses to COVID. I'm pretty sure people can agree. And it's too much to hope that our government pulls itself together and actually starts responding before things start falling apart. We as people have some power to affect the outcome. But if we try returning to normal too soon, we'll be waiting longer and longer for normality to return. To give an example, I have a hot tap in my kitchen. Well, I say hot tap, it's a boiling tap. Literally, push it forwards, hot water, boiling water, perfect for tea. I thought, great. Being as though, if I treat it like an instant spout, my tea's actually going to be a bit colder. All I need to do is push it, wait a few seconds or steam start rising, that's when I know the tap isn't robbing the water of all the heat. That's when I know the water is ready for tea. It may take a little bit longer than we expect, but it does help smooth things over. So let's just sit back, do what we can to help those around us, and hopefully, if God allows and if the people aren't idiots, a tall order to ask for the British public, I know, but hopefully it won't be too long before lockdown lifts and we can travel freely once more. Thank you.